Welcome Pre-Calc kids. I'm going to be working on a flipped lesson for you guys, and this is your first one, so hopefully it goes okay for you guys. We're working on average rate of change today, which is actually learning Target 8. It's a huge idea for calculus, but the math behind it should not be too difficult. So what we're going to look at is we're going to look at a curve here, and I'm going to actually pull this line off of it. We have a curved function, whatever the equation is. And people wanted to know what's the average rate of change between 2 points. So on this, we can connect, we can draw 2 points on here. And people wanted to find the average rate of change in it. And here's what that means. If here's this point A, this point on the graph, I'm going to call it X. It's X value A, and this value over here B. And I'm going to call this function just f of X. Well, what we're going to do to find the average rate of change is I want to find first the coordinates of these points. The first coordinate, it's going to be A, and instead of calling it Y, I'm going to call it f of A. And this is starting to pull towards what some of your function notation in calculus will be. This point then is B, and I'm going to call it f of B. When B is the input, what's the output? So here's our 2 points. Well, people wanted to know what's the average rate of change. And they said, here's what we can do. We can draw a secant line through these 2 points. And hopefully you remember a secant line from geometry is a line that will go through 2 points like that. You probably heard that vocabulary with circles. But here's a secant line, and you're going to find the rate of change between these 2 points. Well, in algebra, you learned how to find the slope of the line between 2 points. Well, when it's not a straight line, people at first said, hey, let's find the slope between these 2 points, and the slope of the line between these 2 points, and these, and these. And they kept finding the slope between different x values on there, and they said, hold on, this is so much easier. Let's just find the slope of the straight line that connects it, which is this line along here. That's all rate of changes. We only use the word moving forward slope when it's a linear function. And if it's not linear, as our black line on here that was curved before, as this line clearly is not linear, it's not a straight line, we're now going to use the word average rate of change. Well, you learned slope of straight lines, and you learned that that formula was y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Well, in here, it's similar formula, except we are doing rate of change, and it's the average rate of change. And that formula is y2 minus y1. Here's y2 when you're subtracting y1, f of b minus f of a, all over b minus a. Easy notation for Algebra 1 is right there, and we're using function notation because it's pre-calc. And that's what our notation is. So anytime I say find the average rate of change, you're just finding it between 2 points. So let's try this. I want you to find the average rate of change on the interval of -1 to 3. This is your domain that I'm looking between, okay? So what we want to do is, this is an awful graph, but let's pretend it's y equals x squared. Between when x is -1 and when x is 3, what's the average rate of change here from this point right here to this point up here? And I want to know what's the average rate of change between those. Well, what you can do is just draw a straight line between it, that secant line, and you're finding the slope of that line. Well, hopefully you know this goes through the point 1, 1, sorry, -1, 1, and this is the point 3, 9. Okay? So what we're doing is finding the slope between those. It would be f of 3 minus f of -1 all over 3 minus -1. And I think it's important for you to see this in function notation. F of 3 is 9. F of -1 is 1 all over 3 minus -1. 8 over 4, and that rate of change is 2. That means the average rate of change going from this point right here, when x is -1, all the way up to here, that average rate of change is 2. The slope of that straight line is 2. Well, if I found the rate of change between these points, between these points, between these points, and these, and averaged it out, I would have those slopes of those lines average out to be 2. Okay? So that's what we're finding, average rate of change. If you have questions, write it down in your notes. Hopefully you're taking notes. I should have said that at the beginning, but I'll say it in class. And anytime you need to pause it, pause this. So here you go. Finding the average rate of change at the top. Average rate of change of a function y equals f of x between x equals a and x equals b, where a and b do not equal, a does not equal b. That's so you don't get a 0 in the denominator. It's right there. So here is a problem for you to look at. I'm going to have you right now pause the video and find me the average rate of change on the interval from when x is 0 to x is 1. Sometimes I have my students start out writing the point 0, comma what, 1, comma what, and finding those average rates of change. I gave you the equation. You can use your calculator. You can use the equation, but find this, and then you're also finding the average rate of change from -2 to 2. Pause this. Turn it back on when you're ready. All right, hopefully you went ahead and found this. So what we are looking, it goes through the point, the first one is on the average rate of change when it's from 0 to 1. So it goes through the point 0, comma 7, and I see that right here. Let me change colors. This is the point 0, 7, to when x is 1, it goes through the point 1, -5, 1, -5 is about down there. And I'm wanting the rate of change or the slope of the line between those 2 points. So to see that, it would be f of 1 minus f of 0 all over 1 minus 0, which is -5 minus 7 all over 1 minus 0. And it's y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, if you think of it that way. And it's -12 over 1 or -12. So the rate of change between here, and you guys look visually, you should see, hey, this red line is going down. It's a negative slope. We could have answered that to begin with. To check your work on this problem right here, the average rate of change on the interval of -2 to 2. So that's telling me it goes through the point -2, -11, and it goes through the point 2, 9, and 2, 9, and I'll change it to purple. 2, 9 is somewhere up here maybe, and -2, -11, that's kind of be down here, and I want to find that slope. I better get a positive answer at the end, because I see that line increasing. So it would be f of 2 minus f of -2, y2 minus y1, all over x2 minus x1. So on here, you should be getting 9 minus -11 over 2 minus -2, which is 20 over 4, and that's 5. It is positive. It's pretty steep on there, and that is a positive 5. Hope you guys are okay on this average rate of change. I have one more example I was going to do, but don't worry, if we need more practice, I can do that when I get back in a couple of days. And your homework now is to do the average rate of change worksheet. It has to be done in class on Monday. Have a good day, you guys.